top of 154.
Hello. So,
really, the last line on 153b at the bottom. I know neither of you were there on Shabbos.
okay, I was there.
You were there?
I was there. I can't remember exactly where. I thought we were more 154.
No, you were there. Sorry, I thought you were something. Okay, yeah. So let's start with just the sentence at the bottom of 153b, which introduces 154.
Okay.
There's the If the rabbis say you want to take away from someone, you have to bring proof. So what's that talking about? The Mishnah says we have a case. A person wrote a document giving his property away, and it doesn't say on the document whether he was healthy or sick. And the difference is that if he's healthy when he gives it away, then it's final regardless of what happens to him. If he's sick when he gives it away and then he gets better, then the document's nullified because it's a document of a shchivera, someone on his deathbed. The document only is effective if he actually passes away. If he gets better, then it's not effective. Sorry. So they're arguing and saying, no, you were healthy when you were sick. No, I was sick. So what do we do? The rabbis. So the first opinion said that it's on him to prove that he was sick, and the rabbis say, no, you want to take away from someone, you have to bring proof. Now the Gemara starts on 154, Kuf Nun Daled, it says Raya B'mai. What kind of proof is he supposed? What kind of proof are we talking about bringing? You want to take it away? You want to take the property away from this man? You want to know? We need to know what kind of proof do we need that will be sufficient to take away to validate the document that he gave away everything while he was healthy. So Rav Huna says Raya Be'edim. He needs to be the people who take it. The people he's giving the money to, recipients, need to bring proof that with witnesses that he was healthy. Find witnesses he was healthy at the time, and then they get it. That's the proof they need. They need to bring not necessarily proof that he was healthy, or that for sure would work, but they want proof of the validation of the document. Meaning, as we'll see shortly, anytime there's a document and the person who purportedly wrote the document claims it was forged, then if you want to validate the document, you need to bring witnesses that can attest to the credibility of the signatures at the bottom of the document. There's various different ways you can do it. You can bring the witnesses themselves to say about it. Other people recognize their signatures, but you need to establish the signatures of the document are accurate, and that would establish the document's accurate. Now, as we'll see very shortly, in a case where a person claims the document is valid, is true, but there's some other reason why you can't collect based on it. And so we're going to say that's the debate here. That's the debate according to the second opinion. There are two opinions in the Mishnah. We now have two opinions in the Gemara. What these two opinions in the Mishnah are arguing about. So we'll see shortly what each of these two opinions is. Each of these two opinions in the Gemara about the two opinions in the Mishnah, what those pairs of arguments are. We have basically two versions of the Mishnah. Each version of the Mishnah is two opinions. So you have to explain four different opinions here. What exactly is going on? According to the first opinion, which is Rav Huna, what is the argument in the Mishnah? And according to Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, Rav Hista and Rav Huna, how do they explain the two opinions in the Mishnah? So basically, have four opinions we have to explain. But I'm sort of just explaining what it even means. The second opinion sort of explains what that is. And the second opinion, what they're arguing about is whether a person who admits to that he wrote the document, but has a side reason why you can't collect from it, does that undermine the document? Normally, we have a concept called a pesha aser a pesha hitter. That is the mouth who said something who gave something certain validity has believed to take that validity away. For example, a woman is assumed to be single unless we prove otherwise. If a woman claims that says I was married, we believe that she's married. She can't marry someone else. If she commits adultery, we would execute her based on her own admission that she's married. If she says in the same sentence, I was married, but I'm divorced now. So normally, if we know a woman's married and she says she's divorced, we don't believe her. But if she comes and says, I was married, but now I'm divorced, the only evidence we had that she was married is that she admitted that she's married. She says right away, but I'm divorced now. So we believe her In that situation, you believe it to say that she's divorced because she's the only one that established in the first place that she's married. So the question is, do we say the same thing here? A guy says, yes, I wrote the document, but you can't collect from it from some reason or another. So that's the debate. That's going to be the debate according to the second version of what the debate in our Mishnah is. We're going to say that the one opinion says the fact you met the document is real, the document is real, and if you claim something's wrong with it, we don't accept that. And we'll see. Hopefully, we'll talk about why. The opinion says no. Once the second you say the document, that even though you say the document's real, but since you're the only proof we have the document's real, and you claim the document can't be collected from him for some other reason, then we believe you. However, if the other party is able to establish independently the document is real, we're no longer relying on your statement that the document's real. Therefore, you lose your credibility to say you can't collect from it. So even though they can't claim, so in this case, according to Rav Huna, Rabbi Bar Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, then what they're saying is the rabbis say you cannot collect from this document. He's the one who claims that it's valid. He's the only proof that we have the document's valid, and yet he says that it is not collectible, so you can't collect. But if the other party is able to establish independently the document itself is valid, then we no longer believe his claim that we can't collect from it for whatever reason. Let's say that because he was sick, that he claims he was sick. So even though there's no evidence whatsoever about whether he's sick or not, but since we can independently establish the veracity of the document, then he loses credibility to say that he was sick. That's that second opinion. And we'll see shortly what the argument of the first opinion is. So you have a simon miniach. Sorry, I skipped a few words. So kamifligli. So according to the first opinion, so I skipped. You still skipped. Rav Huna Omer Raya Be'enim. Rav Huna, we're just rehashing. Rav Huna said that they're arguing about that you need to bring proof with witnesses. Kamiflagi, and according to Rav Huna, that they're arguing about that the first opinion says you don't need to bring witnesses. The second opinion says you do need to bring witnesses to establish that he was sick. Kamiflagi, they're arguing in to Rav Yaakov and Rabbi Nassan. They're arguing about the debate between Rav Yaakov and Rabbi Nassan. What are Rav Yaakov and Rabbi Nassan arguing about? There's a basic principle. Well, there's two fundamental principles. There is something called a chazaka, which means we assume something is what it is. But that can go both ways. We can also assume something is what it was, or was what it was. So we assume something was what it is, and we assume something was what it was. So if something started off at a certain state, we assume it stayed in that state. If something is currently in a certain state, we assume it's always been in that state. Now, if we know for a fact that it switched, then there's a whole discussion. What exactly do you do? Which one do you go with? So Rabbi, ready to go? So Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Nassan. Okay, so Rabbi Nassan says the fact the person's healthy, then that we assume that they've always been healthy. That is that Rabbi Meir says that it's on the person to prove that he was sick. Follows the opinion of Rabbi Nassan, says the fact he's healthy now, right now he's healthy, that means we assume he's always been healthy. But the rabbi said over there that no, there's a different chazaka. So that's one chazaka. The chazaka says he's healthy now, assuming he was healthy, and therefore if he's healthy when he wrote it, then it's called a document of a healthy person, and it's fulfilled even if he's wants to take it back. On the other hand, there's another chazaka, the money was his. The default is something, the money's always been his. The other people want to come and take away the money, they say, no, you prove to me that this money is no longer mine, prove to me that I was healthy, and then you can take the money. So they're competing chazakas, they're competing status quo. One status quo says, you're healthy now, you must have always been healthy. One status quo says the property was yours, it must still be yours unless we can prove otherwise. So the question is, which of those two chazakas is stronger? Rabbi Yaakov says the chazaka of what he is currently healthy is stronger, therefore it's on him to prove that he was sick. And the Chachamim say, like Rabbi Nassan, that the chazaka, that the property belonged to him is stronger, and then the other people have to prove that it's theirs. In order to take it away, they have to prove that he was sick. So that's the first opinion. The second opinion we talked about more already, but let's see in the Gemara. We're now on the sixth line. Rav Chisda v'Rabbi Bar Rav Huna Amri Raya became a shtar. They have to bring proof that with the establishment of the document. Kamiflagi, they arguing b'moda b'shtar shekasavo, that if they admit about a document that he wrote it, Tzarich l'kayim. You still need to bring proof to establish the veracity of the document. In other words, if party A says, yes, the document's real, but you can't collect, does party B need to bring proof that the document is true in order to collect? Since the first party A says it's true and he says don't collect, do we accept both statements or do we accept only one? So Rameir says, Modesh Bashar Shikasavo, that if someone admits about a document that he wrote it, the other party does not need to establish it. It's already established, and therefore you can collect from it. The rabbis hold Modesh Bashar Shikasavo, but the rabbis say when someone admits about a document that he wrote it, he does need to bring, the other party still needs to bring proof that it is valid. And one asks, they already argue about the same exact argument. Why do we need to mention it twice in a mission? It's the same thing. What else do you see? As a Tanya, it says in a brisa, Ein ne'amanim leposlo. They are not believed to get rid of it, to make it possible, to make it invalid, to invalidate it. Divi Rameir. These are words of Rameir. The rabbis say ne'amanim, they are believed. What's this talking about? So you have a case, you have a document, and there are witnesses on the document, and those witnesses show up in Beis Din, and they say, yes, we wrote this document, but we wrote a document at gunpoint, or we were below bar mitzvah when we wrote it, or we were relatives, or we were established liars, and we're not believed. So when these witnesses themselves who wrote the document say the document is not valid, do we believe them? It's basically the same idea that they say, yes, the document was written, the signatures are valid, but the document can't be collected for other reasons. Is that called establishing the document? So Rameir says the fact that once they say that they wrote it, that's it, the document is validated, and whatever else they say doesn't matter. Once the document is validated, witnesses are not believed to come along and say that it's not valid for some other reason. And the Chachamim say, no, they are believed, since they're the ones that say it's valid, they're believed to say, but you can't collect from it a different way. Now, it's a little bit funny how the very witness say it's valid, say it's not. So there's a basic idea, there's an assumption, there's a chazaka that a document is done correctly. The vast majority of documents are done following proper halacha. Therefore, the assumption is, unless we have proof otherwise, that the document is done properly. So even the witnesses who wrote the document themselves are not considered to be valid proof that the document was done badly because they're saying they did something wrong. So we don't believe that, according to Rabbi Meir, anyway. So we're asking now, if Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim argue in that case, basically the same debate, do we say about a document that is established to have been written, that the people who establish it as being have written, it can also establish that it is not valid, or do we not? In that case, it's the witnesses. In this case, it's the party that stands to lose from the document. Meir. That the party who stands to lose from the document, the party who wrote the document, is that person believed to say that the document's not valid? Welcome from the East Coast.
Thank you. We like being on the East Coast. We like being back home too.
Yep, we're on 154A. We just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're right at the beginning of the 14th. 13th line. Yeah, on the 13th line.
Great, thank you.
So we just asked the question that we have two opinions that are arguing about the same thing in two different places. So why do we need to mention it in both places? The stricha, no, we do need them to argue in both places. If it said that case where the people who wrote the document say yes, the signatures are valid, but the document can't be collected for some other reason. If we said that one, we would have said Bahahi Kamri Rabbanan. We'd say that's the case where the rabbis say the witnesses are believed to, the ones who say that documents are valid also are believed to say the document's not collectible. Because we have the force of witnesses, they have testimony, we can document. But in our case, who it is, the lav kol kamine, it's just the guy himself, and he's not believed to weaken the document, he's only one person. Emalo, you'd say no, they agree to Rabbi Meir that once he says the document's real, he's not believed to undermine it. If it's said about this case, only in this case, only in that case, Rabbi Meir says that he's not believed because doesn't have the force of witnesses. In the other case, when the witnesses are coming and saying that even though the signatures are valid, the document itself is not collectible, and then we'd say that maybe Rabbi Meir agrees to the rabbis that because the witnesses are there, then we accept them. Therefore, you need to argue in both places. This case shows how extreme the opinion of the rabbis are, and that case shows how extreme the opinion of Rabbi Meir is. So each one adds something, that each opinion could agree to the other one in the right circumstance. Therefore, tzricha is needed. V'chein amar Rabba, so too Rabba said, Raya v'ein, and Rabba agreed to that first opinion of Huna, that the proof you need to bring is witnesses. Amar le, Abai said to him, my taima, what's the reason? Why are we assuming that he is sick? If you say, a normal document says in it, just to preempt this discussion, that when he was walking around on his feet in the market, meaning when he was healthy, that's a normal document has that clause in it, therefore we know he was healthy. And this document does not say he was healthy. That's considered proof that he was sick. If you're trying to say that, the opposite. Because when all the documents of a sick person are written in them, when he was sick and lying in bed, but it doesn't say that in this document. The opposite, that establishes that he was healthy. So the answer is, so you could say it this way, you say it this way, therefore leave the money where it is, since they're competing evidence from the document. The lack of documentation indicates both ways. That doesn't say this way, it indicates the other way. It doesn't say the other way, indicates it's this way. So in fact, we have no documentation, it could go either way, therefore leave the money where it is. V'plukted Rabbi Yochanan, it's the same debate that was had elsewhere. Rabbi Yochanan says, Raya b'edim, you need to bring a proof of witnesses. Shimon Lakish Omer, Raya became a star. That you need to bring proof with the established documents. The same argument we started the page with is the same argument between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And here you have to keep track of who said what, because we're gonna see some internal contradictions later on. So Yochanan says that it is a proof of with witnesses. Shimon Lakish says, Reish Lakish says that it's proof with establishing the veracity of the document, as we discussed. So Eisei Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan challenged Rabbi Shimon Lakish. Maisei, we had an episode Bnei Barak, in the city of Bnei Barak. About a person shemacha nechasa nechsei aviv umes. He sold his brother's property and then he died. They add in the words, the family comes, and they come and complain about this. Loma, they say, Katan haya bishas misa. That this relative of ours, he was below bar mitzvah when he passed away, therefore any transactions he has been involved with are not valid. And therefore we inherit the property. He sold to someone, return the money and return the property, and the property is ours. They came and asked Rabbi Akiva, Ma Lavodgo. And they one of these parties wanted to go and check and see, did he reach puberty? Does he have the physical signs of puberty to know that whether he was adult or not? He told them, you cannot come and disgrace the body. And furthermore, that physical signs are want to change after a person's death, and therefore even if you'd find him one way or the other, we would not accept it as valid, because maybe after his death things have physically changed. Therefore, we're not going to, the checking wouldn't help at all. So anyway, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that in this case, that they wanted to investigate and see whether he's an adult or not, and say, no, you can't investigate. The Bishlomo Ladidi, it's good according to me that I say the proof you need to bring is proof with witnesses. I say Rai Be'eda, I say proof with witnesses. They're now on the top of the Amman base. Came to Amal Lekuchos, since he said to the buyers, I see Adim below Ashkechu, and they said, bring witnesses, and they weren't able to find witnesses. That's why they want to say, they said to him, why don't we check out the body? Since they tried to bring witnesses that he was bar mitzvah and they couldn't find witnesses that he was bar mitzvah, said, we make our own witnesses he's bar mitzvah, let's check out the body. But according to you, you said, what kind of proof do you need? Raya became a star, proof by establishing the document. What's the point of investigating him? The Kaim Mushtarayu, they don't need to investigate the body, just to find witnesses about the veracity of the document, and then the fact we don't care about whether the body's true. The fact that the document is established, that should be enough. We don't need to worry about checking the body. Because there have to be witnesses out there. I mean, when it comes to witnesses, whether he's adult or not, there may not be witnesses there. When it comes to witnesses who signed the documents, the witnesses who wrote the document exist. So track down those witnesses or someone who knew them. You should never have a situation where you can't find witnesses to it. Therefore, there's no need to check the body. Where says, hold on a second. Mi savras, are you assuming that the family has a property and the buyer is the one making a claim that the document's valid? Because the document standing in the possession of the family, and so the buyers are trying to sue them for it. The buyers are coming and complaining. No, the property has already been transferred to the buyers. It's in the possession of the buyers. Kaimi, that's standing. And the family is coming, and they're complaining, and therefore it's the opposite. So since the property is in the hands of the buyers, the family is coming to undermine the document. Bring proof to the validity of the document is not going to help them. The only way they can do it, that everyone agrees, even the Rishonim would agree, they have to bring proof that the person was a child. The buyers have this other outlet by establishing the veracity of the document in the first place. But the family establishing the veracity of the document only hurts them. The only thing they can do is prove that the person was a child, and therefore they want to come and check out, investigate the body. Because they couldn't find proof that he was a child, so they want to investigate the body. And it's also logical. Because in fact he said to them, you're not allowed to disgrace the body, and they accepted it. If you said Bishloma, makes sense that it's a family that's complaining. That's why they're quiet. That's why they were silently accepted. They don't want to disgrace the body of their relative. But if you say Lakukos Kama'ari, say it's the buyers that are complaining. Why are they quiet? Lame Roulette, they should say, Anan, we, Zuzi Yavinavai, we're going to give money to cover the disgrace. Linvil, and let's disgrace him. Okay, well, we'll pay off the disgrace. But you can't, but if it's worth it, it's not a disgrace to the body if the family's gaining from it. Therefore, the buyers shouldn't have accepted that. So therefore, that seems to indicate that in fact it was a family doing it, and therefore that doesn't prove anything. No, imishum hav, that's the only proof. The Ari, that's not so good. Hachi kamar. This is what Rabbi Kiva was saying to them. Chada, number one, you're not allowed to disgrace the body. To Odin, furthermore, the Chitamer, if you want to say Zuzi Shako, that you should take some money. Linville, and let's disgrace the body and disgrace it. I mean, don't worry about it. Still, even so, that's why he says the second explanation, then the signs of maturity are to change after death, and therefore, even if you'd want to disgrace the body, it wouldn't be helpful. Okay, moving on. Shal Rabbi, we're going to come back to this though. Shal Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan. This that we taught in the Mishnah's Bar Kapara. The Mishnah was taught by Bar Kapara, not our Mishnah, but the Mishnah was taught by Bar Kapara. Hooray! Shahaya ochel sadeh uva. There's someone's eating a field and going. The assumption it is Karlav echad ira, and one person comes and claims it's not his. He complains about it. Lo mashali, the field is mine. The hotzi zeh es ono, and he brought out a proof. That you sold it to me. You gave it to me as a gift. Im Amar, if the seller says, I don't recognize this document at all, then you have to establish the document with witnesses. He said, I never wrote this star, it's a forgery. Then what you need to do is bring proof to the establishment of the signatures on it if you want to keep the property. Im Amar, if the seller says, it's true that I wrote the star. However, star pasimu, but it's a document that had missing that clause, oral clauses on it that invalidate it. O shtar mana, or it's a shtar mana. And mana is I trusted you. That I said maybe I'll sell it to you. Here, take this document. That way, if they've got a situation I need to borrow money from you or something, just give me the money. I trusted you with a document, even though it wasn't true at the time I gave it to you. But I trusted you that you wouldn't use it against me unless we actually made the transaction. Or I did in fact sell you, but you never paid me for it, therefore the document is not valid. So if there are witnesses about what happened, and then whatever the witnesses say, if the witnesses say yes, the star is not valid for one of these reasons, fine. If there's no witnesses about that it's not valid, you follow the document even though there's no proof to its signatures. The fact that the seller admits that the document was written, then the buyer does not need to establish that it's true. He doesn't even establish that the document is written accurately. Once he says the document's real, he admits that he wrote the document, that the other party does not need to bring proof that it is true to collect. He needs to bring proof to the seller needs to bring proof to undermine it. So Lema, let's say Ray Meir, this statement is only Ray Meir. Someone admits that he wrote a document, he does not even prove it, and say the rabbi argue like I just explained. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan says back to him, lo, it's not true. Sha'ani Omer, because I say divrei kol. Everyone says, I say everybody agrees that if you admit a better document, he wrote it, you don't need to establish the signatures. He says, hold on a second, how can Rabbi Yochanan say everybody agrees? But Miflag Pligi, they for sure argue. The sonnet says in the Mishnah, the same Mishnah we quoted earlier today, the witnesses come and say, yes, we wrote the document, but it's invalid for one reason or another. We were children, we were held at gunpoint, etc. They're not believed to disgrace the document. That's what Rameir says. The rabbis say, they are believed. So Amrlei, so Rabbi Yochanan said back, if you say over there, where Rabbi Meir and Rabbi argue, if there it's witnesses, if their witnesses are believed to come and disgrace it, to weaken a document, the guy himself, is he believes he doesn't have what the witnesses. I mean, like we said earlier, that we said we need our Mishnah, even though we have the Mishnah over there, we need our Mishnah as well. Because in that Mishnah, we have witnesses coming to undermine Ishtar. It's not so. In that case, for sure, the witness. We can accept the witness can undermine a document. But in our case, and similar to the case that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish are talking about, when the guy himself is saying yes, the document is real, but it's not valid for some reason or another, that's not as strong. It's more likely to say that the document is valid in spite of his protests than otherwise. So yes, over there they're arguing. In this case, everyone would agree that even if you admit that you wrote the document, you are not believed to disgrace the document, to undermine it. Amalei, they said to him, but we heard in your name, back in that previous case, about the family, we said the family's protests are valid. That the family that said, right, the kid sold the property, and the family says his Blomer mitzvah is not valid, and they say, yeah, it's a good claim. The buyers need to bring proof about it. So we heard that in your name, that proves the fact that someone admits to the document is written, but it's not valid, then they're able to undermine it. And that's not what you just said here. You said nobody says that. Amrlei, he said to him, Zu, that statement, Elazar Amr, I had a student, and Rabbi Elazar was a student of Yochanan, and Rabbi Elazar said things very often, and the assumption is according to the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So in this case, Rabbi Elazar Amr, my student Elazar said it, Ani lo amarti I never said it. You just assume that the fact that my student said it, he's got it for me. It's not true. I never said these in my life. We're going to see. Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera says, Im yichbo Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar Talmido. If Rabbi Yochanan can argue statement of Rabbi Elazar's student, yichbo Rabbi Yanei Rabba. Is he going to argue that something happened with Rabbi Yanei as Rabbi? Amar Rabbi Yani, so Rabbi Yani says, Amar Rabbi, that Rabbi said, Motiv Shoshik Sava, if someone admits about a document he wrote it, sorry, Lekaimo, then he needs to prove it. Amar Le Rabbi Yochanan says, my rabbi, Lo Mishnah, isn't it our Mishnah? The rabbis say, this is exactly our Mishnah. If someone was sick, if someone claims that he was sick and the buyers say he was healthy, it says he's there, that if the buyers want to take the property away from him, they need to bring proof that he was healthy. The assumption is that, in fact, he says, yes, they wrote the document, but I was sick. Then the buyers need to prove that he was sick. Isn't that proof with establishing a document? Meaning that Rabbi Yochanan is protesting and saying that you see from our Mishnah, the rabbis say, even though you admit to the veracity of a document, you still need to bring proof of its validity, since when you claim that even though it's valid, can't collect with it, the other party needs to bring proof that it's true, which we just said, Rabbi Yochanan says no one said such a thing. However, near in Divrei Rabbeinu Yosef, the words of Rabbeinu Yosef seem to be true. Dam Rabbeinu Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yehudah, Amar Shmuel. Rabbeinu Yosef, it says the name of Rabbi Yehudah in Shmuel. Zu Divrei Hamim. These are the words of the rabbis. About Rabbi Meir, Amar Rabbi Meir says, but the Rabbi Meir says, if you admit about a document, then you still need to establish it. My divrei kol. So what is it? What is Rabbi Yochanan trying to say when he says everyone agrees that if you bring about a document, you do not need to establish its veracity? My divrei kol. What does it mean? Why does Rabbi Yochanan say everyone says it? That when it comes to the rabbis arguing with Rabbi Meir, then the rabbis are called everybody. We don't pass like the single opinion when it's against the majority. Now, if you noticed, when we just quoted this statement, that Rabbi Yosef says the name of Yehudah, the name of Shmuel, we flipped it around. We said Rabbi Meir is the one who says that you have to prove it, and the rabbis say you don't. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Meir says you don't have to prove it, and the rabbis say you do. So how can Rabbi Yochanan say the fact that the rabbis say you don't need to prove it, then that's the only thing that matters, and Rabbi Meir is insignificant? Our Mishnah says the exact opposite. So we should, if we're following that logic, we should say that you do need to establish it, because that's what the rabbis say. So the one asks, our Mishnah is backwards. The rabbis say, the rabbis say you need to bring, if you want to bring proof, you want to take money away, you need to bring proof. So the rabbis are the one who say that even though you admit to the veracity of the document, you still need proof that in order to collect, since the person who admits to the veracity also is undermining it. This is Epoch. No, switch our Mishnah around. For Hatan, we had a brisa. Says that other brisa about the people who said the witnesses come and say, yeah, we wrote the document, but we were held at gunpoint, etc. That brisa says this way also. But in them on the post flow, it says they are not believed. Divrei Meir says they're not believed because the fact that they admit to the document says the document's true. The rabbis say Ne'eman, and they are believed. So Epoch, reverse that brisa too. So we're saying turn this one, turn that around. So in both cases, we have this argument between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis. In both cases, switch the opinions. That Rabbi Meir is the one that says you have to bring proof, even though you admit to the veracity. The document itself is written, but it's still not valid. And the rabbis say, no, once you admit the document is written, then you don't need to bring any proof to its validity. But you have another thing that's a problem. Rabbi Yochanan himself said the proof that's referred to in our Mishnah is that you mean proof with witnesses, not proof the validity of the document. Rabbi Yehudah, that's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Epoch, reverse that one too. Turn this whole argument between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish backwards. That Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says you need to bring proof with the validity of the document, and Rabbi Reish Lakish says that you need to bring proof of the fact. So now, Lema, let's propose Lipuch Nami Tiyufta. This proof that Rabbi Yochanan brought, we have to switch around that Rabbi Reish Lakish challenged Rabbi Yochanan with this proof. So now we have to rehash what that is. Good thing we got here today, because there's a lot of rehashing. So even today you have to do a lot of rehashing. So tomorrow would be a lot of rehashing. So you have to go back. What exactly are they saying? So if you remember back from the bottom of the previous page, the statement Rabbi Yochanan said that the argument in our Mishnah is that you have to bring proof of witnesses that he established it. Meaning that when a person comes and says that the document is real, then but it's not true. We use a chazaka that the property was his, and the property has been his, and he's healthy now. Property's always been his, and the buyers have to bring proof to undermine it. And Reish Lakish says, no, even just establishing the veracity of the document is enough of a proof. The moment he establishes the veracity document, that makes the document real, and we can collect from it. You see from here that then Rabbi Yochanan brought a proof from the case with the kid. You have the kid who sold his father's property, and the question is, was he below bar mitzvah, above bar mitzvah? And we said, and Rabbi Yochanan challenged Rabbi Lakish and said, if you say that proving the document is true is enough to undermine the chazaka, undermine the default status quo, then why can't they just bring documentation of his being of the document's veracity and collect? So if we're now switching the opinions, that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says you need to establish the veracity of the document, and Reish Lakish is the one who said that won't help, then you should turn around the proof from this story. That's what our Gemara is saying. Lema lipuk namit yufta. Let's turn the proof around. That Reish Lakish brought a proof against Rabbi Yochanan. Says, no, you don't have to switch on the proof. He has the proof the other direction. Hach Yamar le Rabbi Yochanan. This is the proof to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shimon Lakish is arguing with Reish Lakish. This is a proof the other direction. Bishlomo l'didi. It's fine according to me. The amina that I say raya b'ki mashtar. That I say the proof is by establishing the veracity of the document, the signatures. Hainu. That's a case mishkachas law that you could find a case nachli the kuchas and the chasim that the buyers in the first place took possession of the property, because they can establish that the document was real, and therefore they were able to take possession. Now the family is complaining. But according to you, they need to proof witnesses about his claim that establishing the document is not good. How can it be the buyers ever collected it? Establishing documents is not enough. There's no way to establish the kid's age by checking the body. So how can it be that the buyers ever took possession? So we just turn this whole proof around. In other words, we're saying that I say that establishing a document is all you need to do. Once you establish a document is true, then you don't need any other proof. So it's possible the buyers took collection. Now, if family wants to come and undermine it, they need to be proof of his childhood, and that they can't do. But if you say that even though it admits the document, if they can prove the document, that's still not enough, then what kind of proof would the buyers bring that they're able to collect it? The family is now trying to undermine it and say it was a child. They have proof that if they have proof that he's grown up, then there's no way they're going to bring proof against that. And Amar Lei, Rabbi Yehudah Leib says back to him to reject this. I admit to you, but that when a family complains and says that's no good, the lav irahur, that's not good. My kamar, why not? Katan haya, that he's a child. No, chazaka ena edem chosman l'shtar elam ki nasa v'gadol. That the assumption is that witnesses would not sign a document unless the parties involved were adults. The family is coming and saying he's a child. That claim in and of itself is rejected outright unless we have substantial proof to it, because witnesses would never have signed the document in the first place if the seller were a child. So the family is coming and making an outrageous claim. So that claim is getting outrageous. We ignore that claim, and then even though in general, in the case of our Mishnah, for example, the person says I was sick when I wrote that, then we believe him. When the family comes and says the seller was a child, that claim is a ridiculous claim. The witnesses never would have signed a document when the seller is a child. We say to them, you need to bring proof to back that up. So even the buyers don't have any proof that he was an adult. We throw the burden of proof on the family, tell the family that they need to prove his child, because the fact that witnesses are here, that itself is considered significant enough proof that he was an adult, that we that we believe the buyers and not the family without more concrete proof. Okay, we still have a couple minutes. I'll at least start the next section. You might want to go back to what we're doing now, see how we can get enough to be worth it. But let's get a head start at least, because it's still 7 plus minutes till Shachris. So Itmar, it was said, Katan, a child, when can a child sell his father's property? Now, here we're talking about when a man passes away and leaves a child, what age is called an adult that he can sell his father's property? There's a general assumption that children are not experts in the market, and therefore, even though, and for most halachas, a person is considered an adult at the age of bar mitzvah, but for the sale of real estate, we do not accept, bar mitzvah is not enough, and he has to be older than that to sell property. So how old does the person need to be to know that we let him sell his father's property? And by the way, the Gemara, they point out, talking about his father's property, but if he gets property on his own, if someone gives him or whatever, not his inheritance, then he for sure can sell. It's only his father's estate. We don't want to just tell to ruin his whole estate by the time he reaches full adulthood. So we don't lose it. So how does he have to be to sell his father's property? So Rava Amar Rav Nachman, Rava says the name of Rav Nachman, Ben Shmona Esrei, has to be 18 years. Rav Huna Bar Chinna Amar Rav Nachman, Rav Huna Bar Chinna says also the name of Rav Nachman, Ben Esrim, from 20 years old. So there's this sentence in brackets that more somebody will take it out. It says statement of Rava was based on an assumption. It's not necessarily true. So Masa Rav Zera brings a proof. Ma'aseh b'nei Barak, the same story we just quoted earlier, about a person happened in b'nei Barak. A person sold his father's property, and Mason died. And the family came and complained, Lo Makan, he was a child. The time he died. And they went and asked Rabbi Kiva, Malavoko, can we check him out? Amar Lahem, he told them, then you can't disgrace the body. And furthermore, signs of maturity are want to change after death. So Bishlama makes sense. It says they say 18 shana, 18. That's when they say if Amru then you can check there are signs of being 18 or not. They might be menesnim. They say 20. Kibadku, if they check my havi, what difference does it make? Tanan, but it says, sorry, there are cases where a person is still a child at the age of 18. And that is something called basically a eunuch is considered only, as we're about to see, a eunuch is only an adult at the age of 20. So if the person is 18 and still does not have the physical signs of maturity, he's still a child until the age of 20. That's what we're about to call the Mishnah. We don't have time to get into it today. I guess that's where we start tomorrow. But we're going to discuss, they said this concept that a eunuch is considered a child, and if he's 20 and still hasn't reached puberty, then he's going to be considered a eunuch, and he's never going to be maturity, he's never going to have physical maturity, he's called an adult at the age of 20. But if he's 18, if he's 18, then you can debate whether he's an adult or not. At 20, he's for sure adult. There's no point checking. That's the proof we're trying to bring, but we don't have time to go through it now. Visit Hashem, Rabbi Glazer will be back tomorrow, and you'll do that with him. Have a great Sunday. Good